This is Review at episode 25, recorded April 20th, 2012. Money in the Ad Game. Welcome everyone to Review at episode 25. Yay!
Oh.
I'm Kirsten Winkler, I'm the founder of EduQuest, and with me is our senior editor, Christopher Dawson. Chris, I'm looking forward to our talk this week, as our topic is... As our topic is money in the ad game. So, as you can see from the title, game, we are definitely going to talk money and financing in education these days, and this has obviously a specific reason, as when we look a little bit into the funding and deals in education for only this month of April 2012, we can see that it's quite a big month in funding. So we have 25 million for the much discussed Minerva University, in good and in bad ways, by the way. We have 26 million, or another 26 million for tutor, and then the additional 10 million in a new credit. So tutor also in higher ed, providing people or providing universities and colleges with tailored solutions online. Then we have a couple of stories from our Ad News ticker. So if you're interested into diving deeper into these funding deals, you can go over to the Ad News ticker on EduQuest. So we have 16 million for Coursera. Coursera is a startup funded by ex-Stanford computer science professors, right? And they scored 16 million. Then we have Straighterline. I think Coursera don't really see their business model yet, as they haven't announced one, but they will probably play pretty much in the same field Tutor does these days. Although,
Udemy and...
Yeah, I think, when they say that they will offer university classes at the moment for free, but in partnership with top schools, sounds very similar, only that, Tutor started charging from the beginning,
right?
So that's clear. And who else do we have? So we have 10 million for Straighterline. Straighterline we covered also on ENT. So they offer low-cost subscription-based services, also to allow students to take courses online. So I think this field of higher ed is pretty hot at the moment, at least for sort of the traditional angel and VC companies. 6 million for Schoology, and then, we mentioned the 4.75 million for Treehouse in the how-to space, 2.4 million for LearnZillion, 2.3 for Voxy. We had Greg of Voxy the other week in an interview, so more focusing on the Hispanic and Portuguese population in the States and help them to learn English. And then some other little ones. So this sums up to a whopping 110 million.
Just in April.
Just in April. So what does it tell us?
Every time we talk about this, I keep thinking dot-com bubble, and every time you very astutely say, and that business model is, I think dot-com bubble. That being said, this is such a great time to be in this field, and if we can take some lessons learned and combine them with a real willingness to fund this, and obviously what VCs and angels see as a real opportunity, along with we'll talk about very shortly this sort of changing mindset among teachers and educators to be more entrepreneurial and innovative in what they do. There's a real opportunity here for some drastic change. The money is flowing, the ideas are flowing. If we bring those two together, we should have a winning combination. But I think there's also this temptation to just get out there and toss out some products that sort of follow along some models that have seen some great funding. And it wasn't that many years ago that we saw exactly this lead to a lot of disasters. And the last thing that education needs is for this bubble to burst. Right. And for everyone to say, oh, well, one more failed round with education. No pun intended on the round there. So, I think that you pointed out a great article over on Business Insider. Not the article itself was so great. No,
the article, in my mind, is pretty much the opposite of great.
Right, but great in that it brings attention to this sort of kind of poor understanding of all of this, and a lot of things flying around the air. Better get profitable, course get boys was the title. It takes a while for things to get profitable, and it takes there's a reason that angels and VCs invest up front, because things have to get built out, and they have to get built out smartly and carefully.
Absolutely. So on the positive side, I also see that there is an opportunity. I would say not everywhere in education, because the traditional VC companies and also sometimes angels don't get education as much as they might be familiar with other markets. So I would say nowadays, if you are in higher ed, maybe even with in an ideal case with a certain background, so we have seen this, some professors dropping out of their universities. It seems to be pretty feasible these days to raise a nice sum of money and from venture capital, and then launching your startup. Hopefully they'll also have the business skills or know what people to bring on board. And then also in the K-12 field, or I would say when we see Schoology, so having once again a platform where teachers can share things with their students. We have those social network like stuff for some time now. So investors still seem to like investing in that space. And then of course the big how-to, or maybe lifelong, so more casual, I think, where the business model is quite clear, where you sell a course or maybe a subscription, and then depending on how many people buy, you can make the math when you'll be profitable, hopefully, if you target the right audience, and so on. So not saying that is completely easy.
There's a formula there, though, that seems to resonate with folks, and unfortunately will result in market saturation.
From other markets, probably technology in general, people have definitely started taking courses online, and then going on some platforms. So why not shaping this for education? Okay, I can see that. I think we have to see a little bit with this whole application and so on space. But that's definitely emerging, and you have just recently talked with Mark McDonald of Kiku Text, and there are some other applications or SMS text message services. So really targeting more teachers in K-12, probably not yet elementary school, but a little later on. There's definitely an emerging and I think exciting field. I don't know if there are yet tons of investors, but there are, the New Schools Venture Fund, and also well, Startle and some other incubators, Imagine K-12. So I think there are possibilities. The Business Insider article is moaning that, well, first of all, what I don't like is that the author doesn't make any distinction between the different segments of the market. So a Khan Academy is the same like a tutor or like a check. So we could assume that this is a person not very familiar with the education space or market in general to see the not only fine but very obvious differences between them, but declaring them all as startups, although, for example, a Khan Academy doesn't have to have a business model at all, as they have grants and, well, I think they have a completely different vision of what they want to be, not only now but also in the future. So they don't need an exit. And
well, there's this whole idea of not-for-profit that really flies in the face of traditional funding models. The idea is to be profitable, and you know, obviously Khan is at the forefront of that. There's lots of, you know, speaking of money, I mean, there's lots of grant money, foundation money. There's 81 of the world's billionaires who have signed on to donating half of their wealth to various causes. Bill Gates, of course, being you know, the biggest there, and really
Buffett as well.
Warren Buffett, of course, he's on board, and Bill Gates obviously deeply in the midst of education funding for Khan in particular, but many other you know, aspects of education. This is it does take a different sort of mindset, and I think that until those two are reconciled, you know, the Business Insider article shows very much where there is this disconnect between, you know, traditional look at how this can function as a business and the way things work in education, which needs profit motives and needs to make money in some cases, but in other cases really needs to focus on, you know, what is the outcome that we're looking at.
Yeah, in my opinion, as well, you, as an investor, but also as a tech journalist now, writing more and more about education, you need to educate yourself and get a feeling, why are the people in education? What is their motivation? And some people definitely do it for education itself, and you mentioned some of the foundations, some grant opportunities already. So not every startup needs in its life cycle needs to have an exit. And then, of course, there are other people, not necessarily with an educational background, who come into education because they see an opportunity in the market, and well, if it works well, they are also interested, let's say, in the space, and educate themselves and form their understanding of the market, and then yeah, maybe they'll get an exit. But as the article concludes, well, there is no Google, there is no Facebook in education, so who could tell for the general tech market, let's say 7 or even 5 years ago, that there was a Facebook who could buy an Instagram for $1 billion in 3 days, just like that. So, I mean, saying this like this, oh, there's no Facebook, there's no Google, so there are who can make $1 billion exit. The market is just developing, is definitely getting hotter. But I can only say, so where was Facebook 5 years ago? Yes, okay, they were successful, but until now, Facebook has never had this reputation of being a heavy buyer, but more or less copying interesting other solutions or other people's products, and then saying, by the way, we have this new feature now as well. So, yeah, didn't particularly like this article, and also how it portrayed or how it shed light on the, even if you want to call it the education market. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's also interesting that the education market, perhaps more than many others, is very much an international market, and solutions that are developed in one location can and should translate well to others. When we take the sort of U.S. sort of North American centric view of things, we miss the fact that there are billions of other students, whether they're lifelong learners or actual kind of K-12 and higher ed students, who are potential parts of this market. And this is I keep saying this is a very flat world in which we live, but to simply say, there's already some market saturation, or there's already this, or there's already that, we're completely ignoring India and China and Brazil and Russia and these enormous markets with incredible potential for profit and exits, or just doing things better for the sake of doing them better. I think you made a very good point over on Big Think. We need to be looking at dividends here, and not necessarily at exits. There are ways to be profitable and do well for yourself in this space without taking this very traditional approach.
Yeah, I think what we had to learn in education is, and we pointed that out a few weeks back, or maybe or probably several times, that things to build genuine thought through good solutions in education takes longer than, even though the comparison with Instagram might not be fair, as it's huge, highly popular, and has 30 million users, but in the end it's an application that has gained great popularity and has a great amount of users. But in education, it will definitely take longer to build something substantial than the less than 2 years Instagram is on the market, and therefore I think it is wrong and probably even a little bit dangerous if people come into education with that mindset of only seeing the opportunity, building something quick, raising some money, and then as soon as they have the opportunity to sell, also go out and go for the next profitable or promising market. So yeah, this is why I would rather like to see dividends instead of people getting or people being promised a big potential exit.
Right, these returns, right. I think this also leads us to this idea of the teacherpreneur, and you already alluded to Kikutext and some of these other teacher-driven applications or companies, but really, Shelley Blake Plock of Teach Paperless fame has done some incredible things in Baltimore City, really trying to educate not only teachers but students and bring them to this entrepreneurial mindset, such that it isn't as important to have an exit, but it's more about changing the way that we think about education and the way that we deliver education. So, I think he just very recently got himself some funding at $200,000, but still a good chunk of change for this Digital Harbor Foundation that he has created, and they're looking to make Baltimore very much a city that continues to struggle. And lived there for several years myself.
I hear more and more stories about Baltimore. In education specifically, but around something similar to startup weekends and sort of establishing a startup culture and mindset that they can change things over there for the better.
Exactly. The city dumped a lot of money sort of into some aesthetic things, and I think now we're finally seeing more of a grassroots effort, an effort driven by some of the universities there and people like Shelley Blake Block to say, look, if this isn't necessarily going to be solved from without, let's solve it from within, and let's do it with this entrepreneurial mindset. And the hope, of course, is that there will be nonprofit efforts that will support this, but that also it can kind of foment from right within inside the system, and that's completely different from this traditional model. But it maintains some of that mindset, and it brings some of those same principles forward, such that teachers and students can actually do great things. I think teachers so often undervalue themselves and are so often not empowered to step up and do something great if they see the opportunity. When you're a venture capitalist with several million or billion dollars available to you to go out and do the next cool thing, that's all well and good. But when you're a teacher in the trenches in the classroom, to think, you know what? I can't connect with my students on all their phones. Let me create or I can't connect with teachers and with parents, as Kikutex did. All of a sudden, well, let's make an app. Let's do it. How many teachers feel empowered in a way to do that? And that's, I think, such an important cultural shift that has to be engineered here. Who better to actually solve these problems, or at least identify the problems, than the teachers themselves and the students? And that's, I think, I absolutely applaud what Shelley is doing. Just really incredible.
Me too. Would you say that if we compare entrepreneurs who happen to do something in education and then those teacherpreneurs, do you think the mindset is different than if you are a teacher and you think of building an application? It is because you experience a problem and you want to solve this problem with the parents or with your students, whereas probably the people coming from outside really see it more or less as a market and see, okay, what is the most profitable segment in education? Okay, there's something to do and money is to be made in higher education, so let's see how to build our product or our service that we will have success. But they see it more from a business point of view, whereas probably the teacherpreneurs really see a problem in teaching that they want to be solved. Yeah,
of course. And I think what really has to happen though is for those two mindsets to come together. And if the teachers can create all the great solutions in the world, but if there isn't some financial backing, then those solutions don't get disseminated and don't get out to their colleagues and peers. And that has to happen as well, because when a teacher comes up with a wonderful solution to a problem, if it sits in isolation in a school or a classroom, then that's of little use to the world, and doesn't give the teacher many returns except for being able to solve some problems. On the other hand, when a problem or a market is simply addressed externally, then those problems often don't get solved, and we just have these formulaic another new LMS or another new course platform or whatever, and then we don't see the actual issues that are facing teachers every day and students every day get solved. They have to come together, and I again, as you pointed out, there's a lot of these sort of ed incubators now that are popping up, and the idea, of course, is to bring these teacherpreneurs together with actual experienced entrepreneurs and VCs who can hopefully guide the process and not only make some money but solve some problems as well.
Yeah, I think the little maybe advantage those entrepreneurial people sometimes have with more traditional investors have over teachers is that they either have the technical skills to build themselves, because all the time when and even when I speak with some of the ed startup incubators, they focus very much on the technical ability to build the product. You need, of course, somebody or several people who form the educational team, but the focus is pretty much on what did you study? Computer science, great. So what's your idea to change education? And then hopefully you have the right people on the team or you even, in an ideal scenario, have the education background yourself, whereas the teachers often, well, they do what they do best, they teach, and they don't necessarily always have the guts to
Business
really
acumen.
business side or to actually program something. And it is then always a little bit of a pity when those people cannot enter incubators or cannot convince an angel to give them money. I think it's changing also, but I also see the mindset that there's very much focus on technology skills like programming, and a little bit less on the education knowledge, educational knowledge, a training degree seems to be something like a plus and not really the core, I think, as much as it should be. And I am asking myself, do you think these not only new but definitely emerging and crowdfunding platforms that take off and see more and more success, this is really something teachers could also highly benefit from, because nowadays if you have a computer and with the easiest programs you can basically make a video, explain your idea, or maybe demo your prototype, and well, explain it to the world, or in case of Indiegogo, or at least like on Kickstarter, to the audience in the United States, and people can then simply say, yeah, I get this, I see the need, or I want to support this teacher changing something in education, so I pledge and I give a little bit of money, may it be $20 or $50, and because if it's really thinking of an application once again like Kiku Text, I think you can build this for around $15,000-$20,000, so that's not particularly much. And yeah, I mean,
and the
nowadays
crowdsourcing,
you get seed funding for like up to $1 million. So, and yeah.
Well, I think that the crowdfunding view of this as well, or the added benefit is that there's a lot of built-in publicity there. If you look at the most successful Kickstarter programs or Kickstarter things, then they have also that platform and the videos and everything they create to convince the world that they should fund this whatever it is. That is incredible PR. So now all of a sudden you have something that's being shared very widely. It's gone viral, and in the process of it has been funded. We can turn away again from these kind of stodgy, staid models, and really empower teachers to do what they need to do, and they can go out and they can find programmers and to the technical skill to come together. It's a matter of being passionate about the idea and convincing people that this is something worth pursuing. This is something worth finding the right programmer. Programmers they're all over the place. I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but there's lots of programmers. It's easy to find people to program your app.
I think you just have to, and hopefully our little program will be able to do that a little bit, or in some aspects at least. I think we simply have to empower teachers and showing them, okay, even if you aren't able to program the application yourself, but if you go on, for example, one of these platforms and you present your product, there are people who will like your product and are then willing to chip in some money, and that they don't think they are always in the circle, I can't do it myself, how can I pay the programmer from a teacher's salary, is probably not possible, and I also have to work, and some of the grants are not easy to get, so I have to wait a year or so, and maybe traditional like angel investment or even VC money, if you have a really big idea, is is not my cup of
Understandable.
tea, or
Right.
I don't feel experienced enough on the business side, and of course, what people have to be aware if they are teacherpreneurs or entrepreneurs in education, as soon as you raise money, well, you are on the road to exit, because investors want in a, let's say in education, maybe 7-year cycle. They want to see the exit with X, better not by 2,
Sort of
but by
return.
5 or something. They want to see that you sell the company and that they make a profit, and they not only get their money back, but get much more out of your or their investment in you. So
And such is not the case, often with the crowdfunding, because then it's more, here's money for the sake of doing good and doing something that the crowd believes is important.
yeah, or maybe I also want to use the product. I want to.
Right.
I can remember that Kay interviewed June Aksup of the plushies, the chemistry. So how to teach younger children chemistry and also biology, and see how the molecules went together. And well, I could imagine this plushie on my couch as well, being sort of the geek. So I would definitely say that, well, $20, $30, $50 for these projects, to either have the product or to do something good, is definitely very feasible for many teacherpreneurs as well.
Right. Well, I think that, maybe we get, one of the things that this points to, though, is that a big part of teacher education needs to be entrepreneurship and empowerment. Teachers need to walk into a job in a school district or a private school or a charter school with the mindset that they can and should solve problems themselves, and they should understand that there are resources available. And a required course or two on Flex Builder and a couple of other sort of rapid prototyping tools and agile development, probably not a bad idea for teachers, because this needs to pervade everything they do, and we can't simply go on just cranking out more teachers who stand and deliver. We need to go on cranking out teachers who solve problems, who create, right, and who impart that same passion and idealism and empowerment to their students. If teachers are just slogging along in a system, so will their students, and this sort of thing is infectious. Again, this points back to some of the other professional development efforts that the people like Shelley Blake Block are undertaking to make sure that the existing crop of teachers can step up. But the teacher training programs and colleges and universities, they can be an incredibly important part of this as well.
I think so as well. And particularly in the United States, from what I hear. Basically, when people not study teaching or make a master in education, but something more in business, that they quite early on have this connection with companies out there, that they do, of course, internships, and that they get very much in touch with the real world and get a more precise impression of how it works in the real world, so that they can adapt and learn for later on, when they will then have their degree and be ready to go out there. And I think, as public money is a scarce resource, probably empowering teachers and also giving them at least some insights on the business side, or in some aspects. I could also imagine projects, you had something on C12 with sports and tracks and so on, seeing what to do maybe for a school or even an individual class, of course with some limitations obviously, but how to do something together with a private company, maybe even using a fitness studio, gym type private when your school has not the money to maintain your track, for example. So basically looking at the business side not necessarily always as a bad and invasive thing, but seeing how to use it in a smart way for the benefit of your class or your school, for example.
When I was in the classroom, I had to go and required contractually to go and get a master's degree. So fine, working with my master's, and I actually wanted to get an MBA. I thought, you know what, that would be really useful. An MBA with a focus on entrepreneurship. Wonderful. I can take that and I can make use of that in education. I can work with that with students. If I want to get into administration, this makes sense. They said, no, it needs to be within your field, and it needs to be from these following programs. It was incredibly limiting, and although I learned a whole lot about mathematics from that master's that I still haven't finished the thesis for, but I learned lots, but I didn't take away some of the skills that could have been incredibly useful. And when we're operating within these confines, in fact, we should be encouraging the teachers who and rewarding the teachers who want to step outside of that very traditional model of subject matter expertise is wonderful, but we need a variety of takes and visions and views of how education needs to work. And we talked on C12 as well about a couple of school districts that were literally destroyed by natural disaster, and it took that utter destruction for them to turn themselves around and do something really innovative. I don't want to have to destroy.
I also don't want to have this like happening once again, like in New Orleans from Katrina. But it is somehow surprising, but also a little bit shocking that it needs this utter destruction to make people ready to say, okay, now nothing is there, and also the resources are finite, of course, but in this scenario we are ready to make something really innovative, and it works. But as soon as you are in somewhat an uncomfortable situation, but it still more or less works, then they seem to block and seem to, wearing down the stones like we have always done, and it seems to be much more complicated than everything is erased, nothing is there anymore, so let's start from scratch, and we see great and innovative results.
Yeah, things happening. Right. So gotta find a way to get to that end point without natural disasters intervening.
Yeah. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will, of course, put links to the articles, the funding stories, if you want to dig deeper into that, but also to the, crowdfunding options and, already sort of a little plug for next week's sponsor, Imagine K-12. So they are also an incubator for, the name says it, K-12. So if you are an educator or you have a great idea for the K-12 space, their applications are still open. And why not? If you really want to change education, give it a go. More than saying not this year or giving you the reasons why maybe not. It doesn't hurt. You will definitely learn something from the application process, and maybe you will even be one of the lucky ones who will have the chance to enter the program. Wonderful. Sounds great. Looking forward to hearing more from them. Absolutely. So thank you for this. I hope I was not too agitated, but I'm definitely passionate when it comes to this question of there is big money to be made and there is a chance and opportunity, and yes, there is definitely, and this is great, but it needs to be done the right way with the right mindset, and then we'll hopefully all benefit from it one day.
I sure hope so.
Great. Anything you would like to plug from the
Yeah. Well, actually, just right in line with what we're talking about today, Richard Byrne and Angela Myers and I are launching an educational effort for teachers, looking at this very thing, becoming a teacher leader, being innovative, and ways to really sort of take your teaching and your brand in your classroom, taking it to a much higher level. We'll be actually starting some classes on WizIQ in May, so more information to come about that very shortly. I think we're actually going to take things live this weekend, and really, hopefully, helping to instill a bit of this mindset that we're talking about within teachers.
Great. I'm looking forward to that, and thank you so much for the talk.
Thank you, as always.